Hi, everybody. Welcome to our Q&A of the week. I'm going to jump right in as we got a very interesting question that I think some people might relate to, especially now. So the question is, I have started having panic attacks before performances. Do you have any suggestions? This is a
Yes,
biggie.
we do. We do have suggestions.
Yeah.
Um, I think the first thing, okay, panic is something that happens in real time, and we like to provide tools and strategies to use while you're experiencing it. Then there's the other back end of like figuring out the process and figuring out what's triggering it and figuring out why it's happening and all that kind of stuff. But let me just start with tools and strategies in the moment. Okay. Everybody's panic symptoms are different, but there are things that are similarities that happen with a lot of people: shortness of breath, tightening of muscles in certain areas, sweating, um, temperature change in the body, shaking. So, first things first, taking care of some of the somatic, some of the physical issues that are happening. Breathing. If you do a 2 to 1 breath, so maybe you breathe in for 4 counts and breathe out for 8 counts, or something like that, 2 to 1, breathing out, exhaling longer than you do inhale, that can help to start to calm your nervous system. Um, a simple exercise of putting your hands on your shoulders and then just it's like a self-soothing. Hands on the shoulders. Sorry, this cord is in the
I'm
way,
going
but
to do it myself
yeah,
too.
hands on the shoulders and then just down your arms
Mm,
and hands on the shoulders and down the arms. It immediately starts to calm you down,
yeah, I feel it.
right? It immediately triggers your relaxation response. Since a lot of people, I mean, I know I do, hold tension up here. It's kind of like the minute you put your hands here, it's like signaling to your shoulders, okay, it's okay to let it go. And you don't even have to think about these things. You don't have to like make the shoulders release. It's not about that. It is just about the physical thing of doing this and down the arms. So
Yeah.
do it several times. Do it as many times as you need. And then the same thing, put your hands on the tops of your thighs and then just push down to your knees. And then again, push down to your knees. And you might even like want to find a rhythm with it where you're just kind of, I mean, the ones on the legs really help me.
Mhm.
I do this even if I'm feeling like anxious or nervous, not even panic, but just like I feel like I need to calm down a little bit. I do this on my legs. You just rubbing down from the tops of the legs down to the knees. So those are two kind of like self-soothing body things that can immediately at least let your body know that it's okay to calm down. Um, then there's the cognitive portion that um, the thing that I've felt is probably the fastest thing in the moment to detach me from the panicked thought is um, okay, let's say if you're having a panic attack right before you go on stage and there's a thought associated with it like, oh my God, I'm going to mess up my lines and I'm going to screw everything up. Okay. Let's say that's what you're thinking. That's the cognition. Say to yourself, I'm having the thought that I'm going to screw up the lines and mess everything up. Okay. Actually say it and say it out loud. I'm having the thought that I'm going to screw up my lines and mess everything up. And then say it over and over. I'm having the thought that, I'm having the thought that. And as you say, I'm having the thought that, separate yourself from the thought. The thought is a thing and you are a thing. The thought is not you. So I'm having the thought that helps you separate out from it as reality. And your body will start being able to detach from it because your body won't be thinking, I'm going to screw up, I'm going to mess up my lines. Like that is when you're saying that to yourself, your body is hearing it and feeling it as truth, not as just like a thought that's floating by, right?
Hmm.
I'm having the thought that I'm going to mess up my lines and screw everything up. Okay, that's a thing. You can even think of it as like in a thought bubble. You know, like when people draw cartoons and there's the thought bubble with the, you can kind of look at it like that. Like this is just a thought I'm having, but it can pass. I can even erase it in the thought cloud rather than this is truth.
Yeah,
So
I
I would
love
try
that.
those two different things. The somatic thing that, for the physical symptoms, and then the thing to like separate from the cognitions. Those are things in the moment when you're faced with it, like, oh crap, I need something right now to manage this. That's what I would suggest trying.
Yeah, I think everything you said is so important because I'm thinking a lot of the people who have panic attacks also report this feeling that they're dying.
Yeah, yeah,
And I think it makes such a huge difference to say to yourself, I'm having the thought that I'm dying instead of
yes,
I'm dying.
exactly.
Like even just saying it in a moment that I'm not panicking, I can feel it sits
Yeah.
differently in different places in my body.
Yeah. And that's the thing. What's so great about that simple exercise is that you don't have to like make yourself think that you're having the thought. It's not, all you have to do is say that, and your body
Hmm.
will react to it. I'm having the thought that I'm dying is way different than I'm dying. I mean, I just felt it. Like,
Yeah,
right? So you don't
totally.
even have to try. Just say, I'm having the thought that, and your body will start reacting differently. Then add the physical things on top of it, and you'll probably be able to, get a hold of the moment.
Yeah, everything you said, it's like I'm feeling it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it works. So, okay, so Elisa, you want to get into like then like the deeper like okay, then beyond the moment, beyond just managing the moment because like we've got to have these tools, but then we also want to make the changes in ourselves so that we don't have the panic attacks, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's like in the moment of panic, of course, you want the to do in the moment. And then when you are sort of in a different moment, when you're calm and you're sort of collecting your thoughts and gathering information, it's also important to think about where is the panic coming from?
Mhm.
Because
Mhm.
especially if panic attacks is not something you've always had in the face of
Mhm.
performance,
Mhm.
but at some point after you started having panic attacks, it's very good to think about what happened at the onset of my panic attacks.
Right.
Did someone make a comment about my performance? Did I have a moment of complete helplessness on stage? Like, is there an event that you can link to the onset of panic attacks?
Mhm.
Could be an external event, an internal event that can be very informative to think about, okay, what is this panic really about?
Mhm.
I think that is always very important. And of course, I mean,
Right.
some people have panic disorder, which is whole, other
Mhm.
thing. They could have had this their whole life, and sometimes it comes and it goes. So there's a lot of factors to consider here.
Mhm.
Um, but I think it's important, like, because panic attacks feel like they're out of the blue. Of course they do. But
Right.
then when you take a step back and you start thinking about it, there's always a reason why
Right.
the panic is happening.
Yep. I think what you're saying too is really important because it 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 points to the knowing of yourself, your body, your reactions. Like, I think it's really important. So, for example, I'll take myself as an example because I have a personal history with panic attacks and with panic in general. Um, so, I discovered it's interesting because, like, I had had panic attacks that were like performance related for many years. But then I started having these panic attacks that were seemingly from out of nowhere, right?
Mm,
And they didn't feel performance related. They were just like in a regular moment and I wasn't even having any like stressful thoughts or anxieties or anything. It would just start up. So I had gone to the doctor and I was talking about the panic and whatever, but it was for a regular physical. And they discovered that I have mitral valve prolapse. I don't know if you know what that is, but it's
mm,
just basically in the heart, there's like a valve that like sometimes gets stuck. And when it gets stuck, It's weird. It's like this weird feeling in my chest. I feel like my chest is burping, if that may. I feel like
Mm,
my heart is burping. It's like bubbles or like it's
mm,
a very weird feeling. But when that happens, and it doesn't happen that often, but when it happens, my heart starts speeding up. It like gets really irregular and it starts speeding up. Anyway, long story short, mitral valve prolapse is connected to panic attacks, and it can trigger panic attacks because it like
mhm.
revs up the heart, and then that can actually trigger a panic attack. I discovered that. Now, that wasn't triggering all my panic attacks, but it was triggering certain panic attacks.
Mhm.
And of course, if you suffer from panic, once it's triggered, then forget it. You're off to the
Yeah.
races. You're off and running, and then the panic begets the panic begets the panic, and it gets worse and worse. And what was amazing about that discovery is that once now I'm so tuned into my body that if that happens, it doesn't set off a panic attack. I know
Mhm.
what's happening. I'm like, oh, it's the mitral valve
Yeah.
prolapse. That's what's happening. And then it doesn't go into a panic attack, you know?
Mhm.
So there are different types of panic attacks. So it's really good to start asking yourself these questions. And maybe you need to see a doctor and you need to right? Get to the bottom of what's triggering this. How is my body set up, to react to this? Is this stress related? Is this like a physical thing that's happening that's triggering? Whatever it
Mhm.
is, really important to start to just get to know your body on a really
Yeah.
intimate level. So you can know then, you can feel, when these certain things are coming on.
Yeah. I think that is so important. And I think in general, like whether it's more biologically, so to speak, related, or if it's more of a panic attack, if you just kind of like teach yourself, okay, this is what's happening to me, and you add
Yes.
all that cognitive clarity and you start normalizing, okay, people with panic attacks experience this. I have panic attacks, I experience this.
Right.
You might feel that everything is less intense because
Yeah.
you have put like a self-acceptance approach
Yes.
to everything that's happening. And so it might feel less intense. I actually also used to have some panic back in the day. And I
Uh-huh.
started, normalizing a lot of the stuff like, yes, this is what you're experiencing.
Mhm.
And now it's going to feel like this. And now it's going to feel like that. I'm here with you. And that actually started feeling a lot less intense. And this
Right.
sense of I'm dying
Yes.
started going
Exactly.
away.
Right. That's and exactly. If you can frame it as I'm having a panic attack. Okay. Say that versus I feel like I'm dying and my heart's going to explode. That's what I would always think. The walls are closing in on me. My heart's going to explode. I'm dying. That's I mean even saying that I can feel, my
Yeah.
body. But when you say I'm having a panic attack, I'm experiencing a panic attack. Oh, I'm not dying. I'm
Yeah.
having a panic attack. Like two very different things. And when you call it out like it is, it does. You're right. It totally helps like diffuse the
Yeah.
experience in itself because then in that moment, no, I'm not actually dying. Maybe I feel like I'm dying, but I'm having a panic attack. That's what's happening right now.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's so interesting. I have seen it too with people who have OCD. Initially when they start having intrusions, they're terrified. Oh my God, why am I having this terrible thought that I'm going to do
Hmm.
this terrible thing? And then when they start learning more about it and they start normalizing it, it's like, okay, I'm having this thought of doing this terrible thing, but it's a thought which is part of my condition.
Right,
And everything, like you said, it's almost like the diffusion happens
right.
and everything becomes much more separated.
Exactly. It's kind of another way of doing I'm having the thought that, like if
Yeah.
you're driving down the street and you have the thought, drive your car off the cliff. If you say to yourself in the moment, that's my OCD,
Yeah.
right? My OCD is giving me this intrusive thought, then you become separated from the, oh my God, I might actually drive my car off over the cliff, right?
Yeah.
I mean, all of us have had, not all of us, but some of us who have experienced these things have had these intrusive thoughts.
Mhm.
And to define it as this is OCD or this is anxiety or whatever it is that's happening, then it helps separate you from the intrusive thought.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's so important.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let us know how this works for you. No, no, the tools in the moment, and then sort of like the investigative questions within yourself when you're out of the panic moment.
Yeah.
And if y'all have any follow-up questions, let us know. We're always so happy to be having these discussions.
Yep. Yeah. Hopefully this works for you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, everyone. We'll see you next week.
See you later.